Hi, it is Trisha again with Sacred Uprising Instituting Conference, where it's a platform for spiritual and life transformation, a one-stop oasis for continuing your expansion from beginners to masters to beginners again. And today we have Dak Brown. He will be coming on in just a few moments. So we're just going to give him just a few moments, and I am going to start just a few announcements. But first I need to share this to our Sacred Uprising page so they can go ahead and watch live as well. So if you would just give me one moment. Oh, and Dak is ready to come on. I love it when it works well. There we go. And we are adding Dak. So we are so excited to have everybody here today. Hey Dak, how are you?
And I'm right side up this week.
I know, we did it. We're becoming big boys and girls, right?
Yes, we are. Much better than last week. Hello, everybody.
Well,
on Facebook world.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just sharing this to our Sacred Uprising page so they can watch live as well. And I've already tagged you in it so your audience can watch this as well. So there we go. Okay, let's start. First, I want to get right to our giveaway that we have going on today. So as I showed this earlier when we were doing Lori's video, this is about a 4-inch quartz crystal. And I am giving this away to one person. And the way that you enter to win this is go to our YouTube channel. That's Sacred Uprising and subscribe. So, gosh, it's going to be on Friday. We're actually going to be doing the giveaway on Friday. So please go and do that so we can give this away. And this will be mailed out to you not on Friday, but as soon as we are able to reach you, we'll mail it out on, I would hope, on Monday. So anyway, so that's really exciting that we're doing that. We also have some other announcements. We have Bliss tomorrow at 10 a.m. and she is once again going to do her series on the Conscious Evolver. And her series is about, hey, Christy, I see all those hearts. I love those hearts. Hey, Lori. The Conscious Evolver, she's going to be talking about deconstruction. Bliss also reached out to me and she wants to start doing some additional videos. So that'll be really exciting to have Bliss on here more than once a week. We also have a crystal healer that's going to be starting next week. And we also have an amazing energy healer that is going to be beginning next week as well. So we have some amazing people. We still have all of our core people that are still part of this and teaching us and learning. And that being said, Dak, I'm so excited to have you here. So
glad to be here. And once again, I'm honored as the weeks roll on and I get to hear the speakers speak. Every one of them are speaking just something different and something fresh and something beautiful. I'm overwhelmed, as I always say, at the caliber of men and women. Bliss, when she talks,
I know, wow.
It's just,
I know, wow.
It's just there. It's at a place that different from me and different from Lori and different from all the other speakers, but just at the same time, what everyone brings is so magnificent. And thank you for your vision and your heart for just including me a part of this. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by such amazing people. You know, I've said this several times, this platform is not about me. It's not about any one of us. It is all of us as one. And so our voices coming together are so important and so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for the people that have not only heard the call and answered the call, but have also dialed and made the phone ring to say, hey, I want to be part of this. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
You were talking with Lori and today, as a matter of fact,
yes.
And you guys, it was really, really beautiful. For those of you who, like me, like Lori, like Trisha, like so many others that are speaking at this upcoming conference, we've come out of traditional religion. And if you're at that phase now, it's not for everybody, but if you're at that phase where you're leaving out of what is mainstream and what is prescribed, I know if I look at what I believe and what I think and what I feel now, it's different than what I was taught growing up. And if you're making that transition, one of the things that I did not have is conversations and dialogue like we're presenting. And so if you're making that transition out of Christianity and mainstream religious belief, into a more spiritual approach, I want to encourage you. These videos are being made available. Feel free to download them. Feel free to go to YouTube and subscribe there. As she says, she's giving away a lovely quartz and stuff. But if you just want to be resourced with information and tools to know that you're not alone in this evolution and this journey of consciousness, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to some of these teachings and stuff. There's a lot of good stuff that is being said that you won't hear on a Sunday morning, but will edify you and really enhance what's going on in your own spiritual walk and the evolution that is going. So tonight is just a continuation of that. We talked about last week how I gave myself permission to do the thing that I was told not to do, which is to study outside of my Christian upbringing. And as I did, instead of finding that you know, the world is bad or other concepts are bad, I found a better understanding of what I did believe, even as a Christian, by researching other beliefs and whatnot. And then even when it came to stuff that I learned about Christian doctrine, what is written in the Bible, my understanding, because I only referred to the Bible and other Christian authors and people who believe it, even the understanding that I got was a very narrow and limited understanding. And so as I stepped back and resourced myself and studied other beliefs and system outside of myself, I got a better understanding, as I said earlier, of what I already did believe. Even the Lord's Prayer, we're getting to a little bit of what I'm talking about tonight. When Jesus prayed that prayer, first of all, contrary to what I was taught in religion, the kingdom that Jesus talked about, it doesn't require my tithe. Tithing is a wonderful principle. It's great to keep energy moving. It's great to keep money flowing and keep that openness and receptivity by setting aside something to give and to pay it forward. But this sort of teaching that we can give offerings or something to build the kingdom of God is quite erroneous, because the kingdom that Jesus preached is an internal thing that exists on the inside of us. And it's not accessed with money. It's not accessed with service. It's not accessed with any of the other stuff that we were taught. But it's an inward reality. It's this inward power. It's this inward truth that we can tap into and really revolutionize how we live on earth. I am a firm believer, and I said this to you earlier, that Jesus came to teach me how to leverage my power as a son of God, or as a child of God. The offspring of God. So this thought that Jesus came to save me from destruction or save me, I'm not under that persuasion now. When I look at the Christ story and I look at the principles that he taught, first of all, he wasn't the only one to teach them. Second of all, they give me a better understanding of how to leverage my power as a spiritual being, just like he was. Realizing again that I have my own experience, and you keep reiterating this, Trisha, that our desire is not to form some sort of denomination or some sort of one way to approaching God and spirituality, but we're just giving you tools and tips that other masters before us and since Jesus have even used. And one of those principles tonight, when Jesus prayed the Lord's Prayer, and again, we're talking about the kingdom and inward reality. He said he said, "Our Father, which art in heaven." And immediately when I was taught in my spiritual upbringing, my traditional upbringing, heaven is a dimension that is far away. It's up and it's out. It's just this big God up in the sky that we're trying to connect to. But the understanding based on the kingdom model that Jesus taught that I have now is that heaven is an inward reality. It's a very spiritual reality. And so just like there's a fathering aspect, which is highlighted in the Bible, our Father which art in heaven, there's also a female principle as well, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. There's a scripture that is mentioned in the Old Testament, cited with Adam and Eve, which, if you really understand archetypes and metaphors, even the Genesis story is a story of our energy. The male and female story there is a play of the masculine and feminine energy that is not just in man and woman as we know it, but those poles are inside of us as well. That's right. And so this topic tonight, the two becoming one flesh, there's a scripture that's mentioned in the Gospel of Thomas that's not canonized in the canonized Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Thomas was also a disciple of Jesus who is not talked about. But there's a scripture that says, when you make the two into one, which is where we're getting tonight's topic, the two becoming one flesh.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yes.
And when you make the inner as the outer, and you make the upper as above, as so below on earth, as it is in heaven. All of these things are shrouded in mystery in the Bible. But again, when you step outside of the Bible and research, you find a deeper understanding. When you make the male and the female into one single, he's talking about the balance of energies. And these are the words of Christ. So that the male and female shall not be distinctly two, but they should be one. And then it goes on to describe some other attributes. It says, then you will enter into the kingdom. Then you will tap into that kingdom power that is resident on the inside of us. And I know with your guys, with Thought and Todd and Hermes Trismegistus and stuff, that as above and so below and other, that saying like that, I'm sure you've heard about it as well. Haven't you, Trisha?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Haven't you?
Yes.
So what was the saying? What was the quote about the as above, so below that you heard? We're going to get into breaking it down, but what was that? As above?
You know, okay, so there's a lot of different spirits, God, the creation. I have a hard time calling it God because it's not, that makes it a thing. All that is
Right.
my favorite way to describe him. All that is.
Right.
Has been talking to me about where there's different levels. We have different levels of consciousness, but what is happening up in there's a Father universe, and then there's the universe, and then there's the heavens, and then in heavens not meaning, streets of gold, which is all symbolism, but the heavens meaning, our galaxy, and then it's happening in our world, and then it's happening in our country, and then it's happening in our states,
Absolutely.
and then it's happening in our families, and then it's happening to us, and then it's happening within us.
Absolutely.
On a physical, spiritual, emotional level, right?
Absolutely.
So what is going on above is also happening below. So you can actually understand what's going on in your life if you're watching what's going on in the divine, right? And it's up for us to mirror that. It's for us to be a reflection of that, because we are that,
It's so funny you said that. With Jesus in the Bible, the first people to the birthplace, to the manger, were astrologers. They were magi. They were people that were not a part of that local system there. They knew that the Messiah was coming even before the Jewish people knew. They knew that a king would be born. How did they get their astrological archetypes? Well, they had been recording the movement in stars and the patterns in the heavens long before Jesus arrived. They knew that under a certain type of lighting and a certain type of star that kings were born. And they followed Jesus' star using the same type of old patterns and stuff. Even that, which is funny, if you look at religion, we shun after astrology. We shun anything that is not in our Bible, but even like magi, astrologers knew that Jesus would be born. So that goes to show you that there is something to astrology, and there's something to the movement of the stars. And even when you look at Bliss mentioned about this book that she talked about, the pagan Christ, that she read. I've got friends that are Wiccans and whatnot, and the pagans account of the miracles and stuff of Jesus, they trace the movement of the zodiac and the stars in the heaven and stuff. So we learn one sort of level of truth in Christianity. But as I said, if we step back and we draw from these other experiences and these other accounts, my God, even what we know takes on a whole nother dynamic and stuff. So yes, the pattern and the movement of the stars and the seasons and stuff, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Well, but all of those archetypes come to play.
And I want to say something about that. But first of all, Rosanna, hi. Lisa, she turned in. My co-founder, Jill, said hi. We have Bliss here. We have so many wonderful people here. Yeah, Lisa, we love you too. But I do agree with you about Dak's voice. So, but you know what? I posted about this a few weeks ago. And when they talk about, the three wise men, so this is a great analogy of what happens in the heavens happens here on earth. On that night, the three wise men are also three stars that were shining that night.
Is that Orion's
Yes.
belt? It's one of the constellations,
Yes.
but I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So the article was about, well, maybe it's really not about three men, three wise men and Jesus being born, because everything was a reflection. It's what's happening in the stars, okay, on that night. However, I had to sit I read it. I really resonated with me. I said, yes, but no, wait. It's what was happening in the heavens was reflecting back here on earth. So the beautiful, 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 I mean, astrology was something that I was not even to look at. I was not allowed to, because I was very religious. My upbringing was very religious. We weren't allowed to. But astrology, it's there for us to, it's like Braille. That's how I view it. The stars are like Braille. If you can just touch them and see what is written in the stars, it's going to be written in your life. That's why Christy did a great last Thursday when she spoke about your birth chart. You look up exactly where you're born, you look up, you take a picture, and that's the blueprint of your life. Right. That is your natal chart.
And it's good to know, to make decisions and to work with these stars and stuff. Even we're talking about the moon, the new moon, and rituals and setting intentions and stuff like that. When we learn to work with the law and the order and the beauty and the flow of the universe, it's found in astrology and found in and a lot of other celestial beings and stuff. And
we want to put God, I know we still have to get into what you're talking about, but we want to put God in a box saying he's not speaking to us through the stars. Well, I got news for you. He is everything. So of course he's speaking to us in the stars. He's speaking to us in the wind and the leaves and the trees.
Absolutely.
He's speaking to us in our inner voice. So be mindful.
Absolutely.
Take a moment, breathe, and know you are the breath of God.
And you're a star in motion. You're the same energy and the same elements and whatnot that fuel the stars. They fuel our bodies. We were talking about today. It's funny how mankind, when they do road systems and freeways and whatnot, and you travel them, if you would pull out and look at them from afar, they mimic the movement of our blood vessels in our bodies. It's just like we keep mimicking and keep recreating what is already existing in the heavens and existing in the universe, and the same order and the same flow above governs in how we create and how we navigate here below. So just rectifying that, absolutely. That was one of the elements when we're talking about the two becoming one. Making that which is above and lining it up which that which is below. And for me, simple ways like crystals. I do have crystals and stuff, but with new moons, I set my crystals out to recharge them, also set intentions and burn sage and stuff. I attach my life to the cycles and the seasons of the planet and the movement of stars. And it just makes me better. It just helps me to navigate my decisions in life even better as I do so. I'm sure.
That's beautiful. That's another way to become one. So we're talking about the season. So, we have the winter, spring, summer, and fall, but we have the seasons of our lives.
Absolutely.
You understand, people, what is happening without is happening within. It's the law of the universe.
Absolutely. This is so true. Even the death of Christ is mimicking how the star died, going into wintertime, springtime raising up, the resurrection of a new son of God. So it has all of these other meanings besides what we were taught. But just getting back into that two becoming one flesh. This class and what we're offering here and what I'm offering is never an end all. I'm just hoping to wet your whistle to get you to go into search, to get you to go and to maybe spark curiosity in you, to get you to go beside what you were taught and to know that there's much, much, much more. So that part about as above and so below, with the astrology and the seasons and the moon and rituals. I've got a friend of mine, Kim Beatty. When I taught this class, the two becoming one flesh, in the woke class, this past seminar, she actually taught it with me. And we just spent the whole night focusing on masculine and feminine energy. But she grew up, like me, in the church. She was a pastor's wife at one time. And life once again had its way with her. And it's beautiful to see this journey of even how femininity and stuff was suppressed and what it means to be, to embrace your feminine nature and stuff. But as I said, we did an entire class where she taught and I taught just devoted to masculine energy and feminine energy alone. And that's another topic that I wanted to bring up tonight for us to discuss. Is the balancing of those energies within ourselves. I know for me, being an artist, being a very intuitive type, being a very the feminine energy, although I want to say is something that, in an attempt to fit in, I took on very a masculine, logical, driven, system, and which those things have their place.
Right.
But I overcompensated for it. In an attempt to fit into a masculine system, I became hyper masculine in my own sort of a way, and it robbed me of that, some of the divine, feminine, intuitive aspects of myself, and I had to get to know them again. Last week when I was talking about getting to know your body, getting to honor your own space, getting back in touch with your feelings, all of these are feminine aspects that, again, that I had lost along the way due to conditioning, that I had to reclaim as a man. And so this has nothing to do with sexuality. It's not a gay thing. It's not a straight thing. But it's recognizing that in both men and women, there are these two poles. And balance is something that we say. I think at different times we need the poles and different strengths.
Right.
There are times when I've been just very reflective and very receptive and very deep and introverted thought that I need to put traction to my ideas, where there needs to be plans and there needs to be structure and there needs to be strategy, where I need more of the masculine energy. And so finding not only the balance, but recognizing when I need more to come to play in different seasons and whatnot of my life. The two becoming one in that aspect. Getting along with each other in me. And yeah, you can go ahead and interject.
Yeah, you know what? So when I started my journey, we'll call it a journey of life, I'm female, I had a very strong masculine energy about me. And the more that I've been going through this process, and even in the last year and a half, I had we'll call it, I don't like the terminology twin flame. I do take issue with that because I think that that's just a very human thing to categorize something. But I'm going to use that just for layman's terms. So when I had the twin flame come within, so I became the balance of the Magdalene and the masculine within, right? The feminine and the masculine. It then came without that now I am much more feminine. And I now have this masculine man in my life who has the balance with him as well.
Right.
So he has the balance of the masculine and feminine. I have the balance of the masculine and feminine. So when we're together, it's powerful. It is where I can finally relax in my feminine and he can relax in his masculine. But it's not the masculine of yesterday that was more controlling. This is the divine masculine.
Because that is a big
softer
toxic.
and kinder.
Yeah,
yes.
We talked about that. There's so many examples now, a lot of times when you talk about masculinity, because there's so many examples of toxic masculinity.
Right, yes.
Divine masculinity has not gotten a say. And there's a lot of feminists that say we just kind of need women on the top and men. I think we need to be together. We need to blend together. There's certain aspects that are found in each, and we need them both together.
So I'm going to say something that may not be popular, but I'm going to say it anyways. So I don't know if I take issue. I'm going to say I take issue when you say that, you're a feminist and you put yourself, there is that tendency to put yourself in a feminine masculine energy by saying I'm a feminist and you're going to, I'm going to be on top and you're going to, I want to equal. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be equal, but it's in our intent on how we do it, right?
Right.
You can do it in a more blended way. You can do it in a softer way. But you do have that masculine, and then you have the masculine, feminine. And the goal is to blend it. So it is the softer. It is the kinder. It is everything comes from love. It doesn't mean it takes away your strength.
Absolutely.
Coming from love does not mean that it takes away your strength, because love is strength. Love is all. Love is one.
Right. And a lot of our archetypes, especially those presented in the Bible, the feminine role there was like either she was weak or just, you know, subservient or, but there's a feminine warrior as well. My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Another aspect of there's a feminine that cries out for compassion and justice, and that has an unrelentless desire for truth and for that to prevail. So even some of the things that we've learned about what it means to be a woman, what it means to be feminine, we have to relearn once again, because as you said, instantly when you say feminine, people defer and they think it means weak, or it means
Weak.
oh
Right.
God,
No.
no. But there's also, as we see, a resurgence in our media. What Wonder Woman could be that character that was a right hand man there in was a Black Panther movie.
Right. Yes.
Right hand woman. But she was a strong warrior, and she commanded another group of women warriors. These themes and these new archetypes are rising, where you can be a woman and still handle business. So, and I'm encouraged to see that as well as the earth shifts, and again, that's evidence of these what we're seeing this balance come into play. I'm just good to see those archetypes rising and changing.
I found that at one point, even 2 years ago, I was more the rebel. And now and we need our rebels. Okay?
Right.
It's not to say we need our rebels.
Right.
I'm no longer the rebel. I am the queen.
Mm.
And I feel that I can get things done. I don't have to prove anything. The rebel has to prove something, has to cause a ruckus, and we need them. But I don't need to be that anymore.
Right.
Feel like I'm the queen. I can sit back and just do what I need to do and be. I don't have to, my voice doesn't have to be heard. It can be silent, and I can move mountains just with a hand gesture. That's how I feel right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. And when you look at some of the, when I look at just now going to the Gospels, at the teachings of Christ, when he said, you've heard the old law, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yes.
It was very linear, very, very, law driven, which is a very masculine energy. But he says, but I tell you something new. I tell you to love your enemies. So even the teaching of Christ, they end up having more of this compassionate side mixed in with this law, kind of the law and grace meet and intertwine together. And I see even in his teachings that duality of masculine and femininity joining his sayings and stuff. Sometimes he had a relentless desire to correct the rights and wrongs. We talked about this, and we're going to get into this as well tonight when we're talking about the integrity of matching who you say you are with who you actually are. One of the things that Jesus had a problem with, matching the within and the without. Remember, the people that he had a problem with, that he preached most against, were the religious. He talked about the Pharisees, how on the outside they looked like whitewashed, gleaming monuments, but on the inside they were full of dead men bones. And so there was not an integrity between who they were, and also what they preached. And we talked about last week when we shared how in this day of video cameras, where a lot of our shit is being called to the carpet.
Yeah, it is, right?
We're being held accountable in a stricter way because of technology and because of whatnot. And a lot of stuff that we've been getting used to, we've gotten used to with deceitfulness, with people not living what they're saying, is being exposed even more so now as we get into this new age that we're living in. And so that age-old example that Jesus taught, and then other people taught, about having integrity.
Be who you say you are. I was talking to my
whatever that is.
I know, exactly. Yeah. I was talking to my co-founder about that today. Who we are is like our business card. So just stand in your truth. If you stand in your truth and so for example, I was doing this victims group, and one of the issues that the victims had was their pastor was preaching, you don't swear, you don't have sex outside of marriage, all these great, truths that he was teaching. Yet in his personal life, they heard several videos of him throwing down the F-bomb, going off, and then he ended up, having an extramarital affair.
Right.
So the biggest issue was the betrayal that he wasn't what he said he was. And that's why, like, for this platform, I want us to be who we are.
Absolutely.
Because, well, you know your tribe that way.
And can I tell you, I've lived the other way.
So have I.
And
yeah.
I am wearisome, and I'm very weary of going back to that. I see, even though I've stepped out of religion, I get to own my truth at all times. I get to be the same way with the CEO as I am with the person on the street all the times. I do remember a time when I used to hide and compartmentalize some of myself. My sexuality. I remember being in conversations and people would say stuff about gay people, and I'd act like, well, I'm not gay. But when I did stuff like that, when I didn't stand in my truth, I suffered ultimately. My own self-worth and my own shame and my own guilt and stuff was heaped upon because I would not stand up for myself. And so seeing those changes, all of that stuff. I mean, I cuss now. I drink now. Stuff that I used to hide and try to present this image of perfection to the world. I don't do anymore. I'm also learning sincerely now to honor my feelings, which means that if I'm sad, then I am sad. I'm not going to fake the funk and be something else for other people. But this really, like you said, having integrity with who you are is something that is rare. But when you find people that resonate with the same sort of integrity, that they are who they say they are, that could change at different times, whether you see them at different times of the day or different seasons of life, but they still are who they say they are. When you meet these type of people, you tend to attract them and you tend to gravitate. I know I do. And that
exactly. And I think it's God is more interested in you standing in your truth, than
whatever that is.
Or that you not throwing down the F-bomb or you not having a glass of wine. He wants your truth because it's the truth that sets you free.
I've often found, and I told you this, because of my experience, there was one point on my journey where my close friends, believe it or not, they were not in the house of God. They were street people strung out on the street because in them I found an honesty. I found that even though I was broken and living a double standard in church, with them I could be myself. And there was no kind of judgment. And it was in the midst of walking and talking with them, being myself, that I finally came to myself, if you know what I mean. That I found out what my truth is, and that I learned to embrace those parts of myself that I had been taught the same shame. But at one point in my life, my good friends were pastors, and there's a certain type of relationship that you can have with someone that keeps up airs, that keeps up pretenses. But then there's a whole nother type of relationship that you can have with someone that is genuine. And when we look at the Christ story, one of the accusations that he got was that he was a friend of sinners, because he always chose to hang out with those who society would reject. And I believe that he hung out with the marginalized like that is because he found an integrity and an honesty with them that he did not find in other places. So, that's just a little sidebar. Go ahead, Karen.
So we say that, but I want to take that a little further. If one's intent is just to party and to do things that can hurt them, we're not promoting that. What we're saying, everything you have to have a balance. I have a very spiritual life. My spiritual life is not in front of this camera. It is in my quiet moments. It is on my knees in front of God. It is my talking to the divine and my guides and reading and changing and being but I do also have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I have a balance in my life. If I am all spiritual, then I am useless.
Yeah.
If I am all earth, I am useless. I cannot be used to the greatest extent if I am either one or the other. I have to be a blending of both. And the more that I blend them, the more I find I don't have to go to extremes with anything in my life, because I am completely fulfilled exactly where I am. Everything that is good in my life is just a bonus to the joy that's within. It's only a reflection of the joy and the peace and the harmony that is within me. I think that, I mean, if I had to rely solely on having liquor to be happy, well, there's an issue there. There's an internal issue,
Right.
and that's something that needs to be healed. If you have to do drugs to be able to communicate with your spouse, there is a spiritual issue going on. This is truly, we're not promoting everybody just, you know, have a crazy wild life. We're saying you can have a balance, and this is what two shall become one. Your spirit and your physical should become one.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Beautiful. Very, very well said. Totally agree. And you said something about oppression. When you oppress or suppress any part of yourself, what the behaviors and stuff that spring from that, they're just not healthy. Right. In my experience, they're just not healthy. So I make better sexual decisions now that I embrace my sexuality.
Yes.
I enter into sex and sexual unions differently than trying to get approval or trying to just
feed your ego, or
as I build those aspects of myself. I've noticed those changes in even how I relate to my own body, and then how I relate to a sexual partner and stuff. But you did say correctly, whenever you suppress any part of yourself, sexuality being one, what ends up happening is unhealthy behavior. Where you, as we said, you end up looking to stuff and people and things outside of yourself for fulfillment, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it relationships and stuff that you entertain as a source of identity or whatnot. So yeah, absolutely. I agree totally with that, my friend. The other aspect that I had to rectify, we talked about making the two into one, the masculine and feminine. We talked about the above and below, talking about the heavens and the stars and the movement of the planet with our actions and our dealings on earth. We talked about the male and the female aspects of ourselves. And again, I encourage you to take this information, these topics that we're given, and research yourself. There's something about self-feeding, about you teaching and getting your own experience of these things that we're teaching. But based on my experience, one of the things that I had to rectify when I was called to preach at the age of 19 years old, boy, it was a long time ago. I'm 42 now. Gonna be 43 this year. But when I started preaching at 19, I had entered the college at Texas A&M in the College of Science, because at the same time, biochemistry was my major. And there was such a huge gap between spiritual stuff at church and then the scientific knowledge and stuff that I'm given and that I was taught and that I was learning.
Right.
And even to this day, if you look at it, there's still a big gap between like conservative Christianity and what science is saying, even when it comes to stuff about taking care of our planet and global warming and other stuff like that. It's kind of like we have a cult of ignorance where we pride ourselves on not knowing versus on embracing scientific knowledge. And for me, the two becoming one is the joining even of that, of what is spiritual and then what is scientific.
That's so good.
That's seen in, as I said, crystals. We talk about crystals in the Bible, how heaven is lined up with jewels and rubies and crystals, how in the Old Testament, the breastplate and the stones that the priests wore are some of the same crystals and stuff that we wear now when we celebrate. But how when it's in the context of the Bible and it has that sort of connotation, we look at it in one way, but these things have scientific values that affect our energy. We talk about essential oils and other stuff like that, and the knowledge that we're learning there. When we talk about even how our thoughts affect our neuroplasticity and how we can rearrange our brains and how we think and our pathology by learning to think consistently and differently. We've had this old approach where science and spirituality are two opposite extremes that never intersect, but the opposite is true.
That's right.
And I'm sure you're learning that and you've got your own experience. Do you have anything to feed into that, what we're talking about, where spiritualism and scientific knowledge are going together, Tricia?
They are coming together. I just posted an article and I forgive me, I forget what it was, but what I said on it, it's amazing to watch how science is actually catching up to the spiritual community.
Right.
Because we understand on a vibrational level or an energy level how certain things work. And now, oh, it was multiverse. Science, Hawkins did that 10 days before he died. There was this article that he wrote that there is a multiverse. It's
Right.
there. The science proves it. And, you know, people that are like me are like, really? Really? You guys are finally catching up.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, the Bible verse says, professing to be wise, they became fools. And I think sometimes we lean so heavily on science that we forget just all that is.
Absolutely.
It's everything.
And it's not divided. It's both.
Right.
Yeah. And just like you said, the masculine, like we don't need women ruling over men. We don't need men ruling over women. We need the two aspects.
Yeah.
We need each other, even when it comes to spiritualism and scientific knowledge. And we'll find that when we interplay, that we get a lot further. We get a lot more done.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful dance.
Yeah, because we're seeing now that science is backing up stuff that we felt spiritually. And then science gives definition, I found, to stuff that I could not even explain on a spiritual level. It gives me new words and whatnot to communicate even that. We do need the two, and the two do fit together perfectly. And so the rectifying of that union is a beautiful thing as well.
You know what? I was just told something by one of my guides while you were talking, and I believe it's Thoth. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know how to say this because it's the first time I've ever this has popped into my head. So let me try to explain this. So, Dak, you have talked about your sexuality. You are a man, and it's a beautiful thing. And think of this, that maybe, and I'm going to say this to my heterosexual friends who condemn people like Dak because of his sexuality. Maybe, you know, it's a biblical truth to become one. Maybe those that are, they're gay, maybe they have a higher spirituality because they do have both within them that they're very in touch with. And maybe some of them need to balance it a bit more, but maybe they are higher beings than what you could even imagine, because in the physical, two have become one.
Wow. It's amazing you say that. Even with Native American heritage and whatnot, we were taught that system of duality, male, female, one or the other, man dresses like this, woman acts like that. But there are other cultures and stuff that have recognized folk like me. Even if you just want to be honest, historically, even though it's been in the shadows, we are the ones that painted your Sistine Chapel and dressed your Pope to this day.
See what Christopher just wrote? Indigenous cultures, gender, sexual, fluid are called two spirits. Yeah,
which
right there.
That goes back when you look at
beautiful.
This saying.
Thank you, Christopher.
Exactly, Christopher. When you look at this saying where it says, when you make the male and female into one single one, so that the male will not be female in this joining. When Jesus quoted that, and now seeing indigenous societies that actually live this way, it wasn't something new. It was something that was embraced even before Christ, and that this duality exists in us. Just like we talked about, we have our shine and we have our shadow, the masculine and feminine aspects, and especially, as you said, in gay people, even though in our culture, gay culture, because of the oppression and this oppression of society, a lot of the things that are associated with gay culture tends to be maybe unhealthier type of habits and whatnot.
Yeah, but you know what? We've talked about this too. The degree of one's light is the degree of their shadow.
Yeah.
Okay? So that goes back. And that's why it's just, I don't understand judgment. And I know that I'm the first one. In fact, my boyfriend we were coming back from out of town, and I was in a fast food line, and I was getting really upset with the people in the fast food line, which is the first time he saw me like that. He's like, oh my God. So, I mean, I'm realistic about judgment. I am very realistic. But how can you judge a culture of something somebody is born with? How can you judge that? And then judge the shadow with the light? You have to have the shadow to have the light, and you have to have the light to have the shadow. It's a beautiful balance. Thoth has told me he is the weigher of the balances, the darkness and the light, or whatever it may be, that's in the two balances. And it is God. It is all that is in the middle. And that is the same with the Star of David. Okay. So you have the Star of David. You have two triangles. I have the
that which above and that which is below
on my ring finger. Right. When the 2 points connect, that's where God resides.
Absolutely.
It's in the balance.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the Star of David. A lot of our signal, what we say, what do they call them? A lot of our different signs and stars and whatnot have significance and meaning beyond what we know. And that Star of David is one that highlights that as above and so below sort of thing. It's two triangles, one pointing upward, one turning down, and as they meet, so does the Masonic symbol, so does many others. This is ancient knowledge.
It's ancient knowledge. But when you have the triangle pointed up, that is the symbol of the masculine. When it's pointed down, it's the symbol of the feminine. When you bring them together, you get the Star of David.
The two becoming one flesh.
The two becoming one.
So there's a theme with all of the speakers, and Bliss typed it in there today, even as Lori was speaking, about unity. And that's where we are. We've been polarized. We've been shunning, but this Christ consciousness that is springing alive and coming back into play. Well, we're talking about kingdom principles now.
That's right.
Within and awareness and intelligence and divine intelligence, it is incorporation of our poles and the mixing of and the commingling of what we thought was separate. It's a joining of our duality into oneness, and so. I just want to reiterate that as well.
That was perfect, because I was about to say Christ consciousness is the bridge to the consciousness of one.
Yeah.
And that is to say of all that is God.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I have to talk about this week.
Oh, Jack, I love talking to you. I so love talking to you.
You too, my love. You too.
That was so good. That was so great. Okay, so Dak, tell people how, I know that you're not taking on new clients right now, but if people can get in contact with you, how would they do that?
You know what? You can inbox me on Facebook. I'll get to that in a pretty reasonable amount of time. And now that I'm saying it to you, I'll definitely do better. But if you just have questions and just want a dialogue, or even if you, hey, what were some videos or some books or something that you read? I'm happy to share this information. Just reach out to me on Facebook. I'll give you also my personal email address. It's just my Gmail address that stuff goes to. It's Dak Brown, D-A-K Brown, @gmail.com. And I'm working with Trisha as well. Thank you, my beautiful. To go ahead and get my website, my cousin Brandy as well. Saying this, it's good to know your strengths and weaknesses, even when it comes to technology.
Right. Yeah.
And if there's somebody who has something that you're better at, to connect with them. The younger generation has a way of online just connectivity. I need to get with them so I can get that done. But I'm working with my cousin Brandy, and she's helping me get my website up. So I will use my email address and my Facebook box to get in contact.
Yeah. And being that, Dak, with Dak saying that he'd be happy to talk to people, let's honor his time. And so, because I know you're writing a book right now, and you have that going. So we want to make sure we honor Dak's time.
Deadlines with that, my God.
Yeah. So, okay, well, wonderful. Let me make just a few more announcements. Tomorrow, we have the beautiful Bliss. Once again, I want to make sure that I mention it at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. She will be talking about the conscious evolver deconstruction. And then, once again, we have Lisa tomorrow at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. And that is sacred sexuality. So I'm so grateful that you were here, Dak.
Yes, Lisa.
keep remembering that you can always go to sacreduprising.com to get some more additional information. However, we are still making changes because, like I told you before, when I first started that website, it was all about me. And now it no longer needs to be about me. It's about all of us. So we are making some major changes to the website, and hopefully that will be done by the end of this week, but don't hold me to that. So anyways, Dak, thank you again. Everyone, thank you for watching. If you do have any questions, or if you have some topics that you would like some of our teachers to cover, please feel free to email me, and you can email me at Trisha@sacreduprising.com. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.